me. Why am I up at 3:55 in the morning? Because I never went to sleep at all. So, if any of you are out there, I know in the spiritual community we usually do wake up around 3:30, 4 o'clock. So if anybody's up and they like to join in with me, feel free to come in, give me a thumbs up, say hi, let me know you're here, and let's talk about this situation. So, for those of us who have been fortunate enough not to be aware, D.L. Hewley and Monique, who is an actress and a comedian, and she played the mother in the movie Precious a few years back, which was, I guess it was paid for and it was produced by Oprah Winfrey. Oh my God, I must be really tired. And I guess, who's this other guy? She's been harassing. Besides D.L. Hewley and Lee Daniels. Oh my God. Okay, so she's been harassing these fellas, a whole bunch of people, for a bit now. So anyway, the latest shenanigans is that there was a show in Detroit that she and DL were both scheduled to be on the bill. And according to the tickets and the flyers, DL was the headliner. In DL's mind, he was a headliner, and he had a agreement signed. It wasn't a contract. Now, according to some comedians that I've been listening to, that's not uncommon. And his was dated the day before the show. Monique has a contract with her management company, through her management company, which would have contracted with the promoter, and it was signed the day before DL's was. So does that mean that his supersedes or not? Hi, thanks for coming by. Please give us a thumbs up so other people know we're here, and say hi and let me know you're here. So anyway, I'm going to play a video, just the sound of it, under the Fair Act use, of the latest and hopefully the last response to this whole thing from D.L. Hewley. But anyway, in the meantime, Monique got upset because it was her understanding, allegedly, that she was supposed to be the headliner, and therefore she was going to go on last. So she got to the venue. DL said that she took her time getting to the venue because she thought that she was going to play a game of, they were just going to let the show go, and then if she got there, she would be the last one. But he knew what time he was going on, and he knew that she was supposed to be right before him. When you're doing comedy, it matters who the, first act is and who the headliner is, and it can become a thing. There were two other people on the venue, so the only two spots in question were the headliner and the next person. So anyhow, excuse my walls, I haven't painted these in 23 years, but I was trying to sit up. I didn't want to be in the bed anymore. I couldn't sleep. So I thought about this, and he didn't even have enough chance to think about it because there was always something coming out. So the night of the performance, DL didn't go on last. I mean, did go on last. Monique just went on before him. So she was the third person on, and she got on the stage and she was quite upset and very vulgar. And she said some pretty mean things about DL and some vulgar things about his wife. And she even went after his dog. And she did her 20 minutes. I think they said 10 of it, or maybe the whole 20, because this was somebody's cell phone, of the act. Of course, it wasn't televised. It was a small theater in Detroit. And apparently they have worked together on a bill before, even a couple of months earlier. So that's why this whole thing is a little silly. Anyway, so I guess it was her turn. I don't know. Whatever. So the two of them, she eviscerates him for 20 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it was, over and over. And she's just talking nasty. She's calling him a coward, saying his wife, she feels sorry for her for having to be married to a coward. Basically, that's not what she said. She used the D word and talked about a sexual act. But, I mean, DL had to come on after that. And so, of course, she was funny and she was loud. And so the audience, they came there for laughs. And they were, just, I guess they were shocked. And the ones who were her fans were on their feet and hollering, and how we do in the theater. Anyway. So now, when she left, a few of her fans and audience members that felt that she had been done wrong somehow had gotten up and left the venue. But there was still an audience there. And DL came out, and of course it's like he just got slapped, like like Chris Rock. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Did I miss something? So anyway, he didn't really address it. But bottom line, this is not between the two of them. This is between them and the promoter, because the promoter told both of them that they were going on at the same time, or that they were both going to be last. But hers had a time on it, because she has certain times that she, I don't know, vampires have to be in before a certain hour, I guess. She had a certain time, and she only performs for an hour. Well, she didn't do an hour, from what I understand. But at least the clip that she did address the promoter when she first got out. But that was light. She went in on DL like, I mean, it was crazy, I mean, it's not like he was writing her check, I mean, they were both being paid for their work that night. Okay. So anyhow, she goes ahead, she does all this, DL comes out, what can he say? So then, I think the next day, whatever it was, Monique has been keeping it up. And they've been going back and forth. DL said that he should have known better than to ever be on the stage with her. He had been warned. He should have followed his first mind and not even agreed to work with her. And he said something about he thought he was giving her a chance, which she did not appreciate that at all. So they're going back and forth. She's telling him about her over 30 years in the business. And then she closed out the Queens of Comedy. She was a headliner there. And he was the opening act on the Kings of Comedy. Like, come on, stop. Anyway. I'm not Team Monique. Never have been. Even when she was fighting with Netflix and, well, I didn't, with Netflix, yeah. But when she dragged Oprah and Tyler Perry into it, I was like, come on. Because in that instance, the way I heard it, and I only heard it from her, she was, you know, being difficult, and the producer said, what's the same guy I'm talking about? I can't. Lee Daniels. He said, I can't. That's why you're being blackballed. You know, like nobody wants to work with you. Oh, now this became a thing. But baby, what are you doing? You are not acting in your best behavior. And you're messy. And you could be the greatest person in the world, but people aren't going to put up with nonsense because, especially in an age of such, you know, people suing back and forth and all of this, nobody wants to be bothered with that. And then there's a whole nother set of folks in Hollywood or that circle of whatever, entertainment, that don't like her husband. And her husband is her manager. So, if your husband is your manager and he made a deal with a promoter and you signed a contract with your husband, with his company, because it's Hicks, whatever, Hicks Entertainment or whatever, then you need to let him find out from the promoter what the hell. She didn't sign a contract with DL or the other two comedians. He booked her. He was her agent, her management, and he booked it with the promoter, and the promoter gave him a time. I'm pretty sure what happened is the promoter knew that if he told Monique that she was coming on second, it would have been a problem. And he may have lied to both parties. On the other hand, the promoter may not have lied to nobody. This is my opinion right now. Because the main opinion is that, you know, the promoter should be in trouble. He should be. Somebody should be questioning him, but we haven't heard a promoter come up and say nothing yet. So, he could be hiding, he or she could be hiding because they messed up, or the promoter didn't tell no lies. The promoter said what he said to Sydney, her husband, Daddy. And Daddy might have said, I better not tell Monique she's not the headliner, because if she isn't, she's not going to take this job, and we need some checks up in this camp, right? I mean, he is her management, and I'm sure that he's on a salary, so Monique got money. He don't. So he would want her to work because then he would get his salary. Whatever she pays him for that, you know, he gets a percentage of it, right? And I'm sure he's banking some of his. I'm sure some of it, of course, is going to the household. I'm not saying that he's like pimping her, but he's an employee, and you know, Monique got 30 years of residuals and all kinds of stuff going on. Homeboy don't got all that, so he would want her to go out there and work, understandably. And if you know who you're dealing with, and you know that Monique is a hothead, because he is her husband, and he's with her a whole lot more than we are. Well, we have been. It seems like now we're in their house more than their kids are, because they ain't seen a child yet. I guess they have nannies and whatever. But I don't know how old her kids are. I think she has twins. I know all her kids are boys. But anyway, I think she has 5 boys now. Older ones and then littler ones. Anyway, that's not even the point. So he tells her what he need to tell her to make sure that she gets to that venue. That would be what anybody would do. It's like dealing with a child, right? You got to get them there. You tell them what you got to get them. Once they get there, you deal with it then, right? That's what happens when you're dealing with a narcissist or someone with some type of emotional, not a narcissist. I'm not trying to diagnose her. I'm just saying she may have some narcissistic tendencies. What I do know is that she's got some healing that she needs to do. She's triggered very easily. And at the same time, let's keep going. Let me finish telling the story, and then I'm going to tell you what Spirit gave me today. I was trying not to do this, but obviously they're not going to let me sleep until I do this. So anyway, it's 4:11 when I said that. Okay, so 4:11. Okay, information. Okay, here we go. So they're going back and forth. He said he should have never, agreed to work with her. Blah 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 blah. We ain't heard from the promoter yet, and I think that Sydney lied to her. Now, I know Monique is smart, and she's a lot younger than me. I'm in my early 60s. She's 54. So her brain should be still working very well. Shouldn't have slowed down a bit. She's really sharp because she knew how to come out with some vulgar stuff on the fly. Maybe it was on the fly. Anyway. And I think that that's why she has proceeded to change the subject, in my opinion. So she went from, because people were like, Monique, you went too far. You're talking about his wife, you're talking about a dog, blah, blah, blah. And he explained that the dog was a service dog. Not a service dog per se, but it was a dog that he had bought in memory of his father who had passed away. And Monique didn't know the details, so it was kind of like, now you dissing the man's dog and his father? Okay. But she didn't apologize that deeply on that, because she still was on her bit about this contract and being the headliner. She got her money. Her money was in escrow, right? Once she performed, it would be released. She knew how much money was in there. So, are you mad because you thought you got a lot of money to be the headliner? But if DL is the headliner, that means he got more money than you did. And you thought you got a lot. Now you're mad. No. You have to approve the tickets, the flyers, everything that surrounds that whole, venue, date, and everything. You didn't sign the contract until 2 days before the performance. So who signed off on the flyers and the tickets? Your management company, your husband. And that's why she needs to change the subject, because Monique has either confronted his butt, because she's married to him and she knows how he is too. Just because he's sitting there looking innocent don't mean that he don't have some squirrel qualities, right? Because he's a covert narc for being with her. So they feed off of each other. And sometimes it's in a good way, because his energy that he gives off, that people pick up as feminine, it helps to balance her masculinity. That's how Spirit gave it to me. So he serves a purpose. Just like Kevin Samuels served a purpose. They may not, just like when we're dealing with our divine masculines and they trigger us. They're catalysts. They serve a purpose. As evil as their asses are, they serve a purpose. And Monique, at this age, she don't got no she's okay. Sorry. Monique got traumatized when she made that movie, Precious. And she did a wonderful job. She won an Academy Award. And sometimes doing such work that it takes to, become that character that she had put away a long time ago, or, she herself had been abused years ago by her brother. But she didn't tell her parents right away, and then he started to let his friend down the block allegedly do that to her too. And he's admitted to this also. And he went to jail for another sexual assault for something else that has nothing to do with her. So that's who he is. But I think that whatever happened, her rage is against her parents for what she sees as their neglect, and then doing that role. I think it triggered her, and she never probably dealt with anything. She probably didn't have any therapy or anything after that. And she's a strong, woman, and she's got her husband there, and, she got her money and her Academy Award and blah. But she may not have thought about getting therapy since she did the role. I'm not saying she hasn't had therapy sometime in her life, but at the same time, this is Monique's third husband. So, listen, just like everybody says with Holly Berry, if she can't keep a man, something must be wrong with her. It's not that something's wrong with her, but there's some trauma that needs to be dealt with. And it takes a certain type of man to deal with that type of trauma, the same way it would take a certain type of woman to deal with a man who had that type of trauma, or who was a drug addict or alcoholic. 222 when I said that. 22 minutes on this video. So there are men and women who deal with abuse of any kind, any sort, verbal, emotional, spiritual, physical abuse, that don't do the work, don't get the therapy. And it's not because of any reason. And back in that time when this happened to Monique, parents didn't know nothing about psychiatrists and psychologists in the black community. This is new right now for us. So, right now, thank you for the thumbs up. Please give a thumbs up so that other people know I'm in here and they can join me and in the chat. But it wasn't common to do those type of things, to get, you would get medical help and maybe law enforcement, but therapy, black people wasn't trying to do that. First of all, nobody's insurance was covering that back then. And it was expensive, and it was, it could be 2 or 3 times a week. It could be once a week, whatever. Who's going to run a kid back and forth to that, with parents having to do all that they had to do? So, mental health was something for a long time that wasn't talked about, and it wasn't accessible. Even, it was shunned, even in church. Pray about it, take it to God, all of that other stuff. Okay. Now, Monique, anyway, she has a beef with DL. That's what I'm talking about, changing the subject. She changed the subject from the contract to attacking DL on him, on his persona, on the man that he is, because of a beef that they had years ago when she went on his radio show, a day that he wasn't in the studio, mind you, and they played some kind of a game like they do in these dumb podcasts. And the co-host, who is a woman, asked her a question that she found to be quite disgusting. And it had to do with her husband. Who would she rather him be with? It was just nasty. One choice was a male and one choice was a female. And with a condom or without a condom. The male with the condom or the female without the condom. Something like that. So she was offended. Instead of taking it for a joke, we're comedians, ha ha ha, but that she's very sensitive to the fact that people are trying to play her husband like he's soft. And I'm sure he was right there when she was in the studio, because he don't let her go far without her. And people don't like him. We don't have to deal with him, and we don't like him, right? half of the people who are watching, right? You know, this drama. So anyway, she got upset, told the girl off, and then she said she went and called DL later and asked him, what the hell? And he said, well, that's just how we do. It's a game. Oh, she's been holding him up in mind since then. She's been mad at him since that moment because he was supposed to apologize to her and understand how wrong it was for, you know, him to be asked, his crew to be asking those types of questions, and, you know, one black man to another type thing. He ain't do all that. He's a comedian. He found, oh, come on, that's how we do. Well, she's been upset at him since that day. And so she said that when she came on the stage, she addressed the promoter in the beginning, but her beef was about this remark, this question, this joke that she didn't answer. Rightfully so. She didn't want to answer that nonsense. She didn't have to answer it. But she turned around and put it on him because it was his show. Mind you, he wasn't there. And apparently this is a kind of a question that they ask a lot. I don't know if this is a regular question because I've never watched his shows like that. But anyway, she's mad because she didn't get the response that she wanted, or Sydney didn't get the response that he wanted her to get, whatever. And so she's been having it as soon as I get a chance. But, so you wait to address him. She said she addressed him on the phone and he blew her off, so she didn't feel like she needed to talk to him again. Sister, come on, all these years? Come on. You could have asked him out to lunch. You could have invited him and his wife over to dinner. You could have done any of those things. I mean, he wasn't even there when the joke was told. This is what I'm talking about, the oversensitivity. She might have borderline personality disorder. You know, that might be what it is. And maybe Sydney's scared of her. Maybe the other two husbands are going because they're scared of her too. Could be. I don't know what that situation is. But I know what it's like to deal with a borderline personality disorder person. And they will say whatever they got to say to get their way. And they will do whatever they got to do to get their way. They will burn anybody. They will say anything. And their mouths can get quite wicked. Right? And, you know, he's got children with her, and, you know, that is his bread and butter. So maybe what we're seeing is like, you know, a hostage situation in a way. You know, men do get into those situations without realizing. Maybe he thought he could handle her, but who could handle Monique? She's no joke, you know, and she's very smart. So it's not like she can, you know, she's not gonna let them give her medicine or anything like that. Anything that she don't want to do, she ain't gonna do. So that's an out. So anyway, but he plays himself. But I'm sure that he's saving up his coins for his exit at some point. even if he stays until the children are old enough to take care of themselves. I'm just saying. But, Our Lady of the Dark Mysteries. Spirit told me to get this and shuffle it while I was talking. So, let's see what comes out. Anyway. And this is just Spirit talking. This is not, no attack. I'm just, yeah. Our Lady of Passion. Yeah, she's fiery. And she's a Sagittarius, too. I know that energy. I'm scared to look and see if her birthday's my birthday. So I'm not hating on her at all. But, and I'm not like that, but to a man that may be a little more soft-spoken, maybe, could be intimidating. But that dude, he got something else up his sleeve. But like I said, they serve purposes, right? They're catalysts, right? And maybe he's been triggering her. Yes, and that's the other thing. When he talks, and he's sitting behind her with his arm around her, and he talks about her trauma, and he talks about, because they're on this rant now about black women and trauma and people not respecting black women, and he talks about Monique's sexual assault. I don't care what she says. I see it. I see that it does something to you every time somebody mentions it. If you're not healed, if you don't feel that your parents handled you in the right way. I feel I've been in a situation, I was a victim of sexual assault, but I was like, it was a stranger on the street on my way to school in the morning when I was in high school. And it's still triggering, but they caught the person. He went to jail in the whole 9 yards, but I worked in the jail. So we know he wasn't no Boy Scout when he got out. He was only in jail, I think, 10 years or 15 or something. I don't know. They don't even call you and tell you how much time they gave him. They didn't even call and tell us. But we found out. My mother found out. So it was like 10 or 11 years, something like that. He could have come through the doors in the facilities that I was working in as a correctional officer any moment. And I didn't really think about that until after I took the job and I saw how it is. And you have no say over who comes into your housing area. You don't even know. They just deliver bodies. They call them bodies. They just deliver people to you, at certain hours, and you just got to check them in. I could have been checking him in because he's being detained for something else. And I'm not joking because I was working in the visits as an officer, and he was in jail apparently. His mother and his sister came to see him, and I was working at the information booth, and they gave me his name. I knew his name because we went to trial in the whole 9 yards, and put in the information, and that was him. And his mother recognized me, and his sister did too, because they were adults. She was an adult. He was in his 30s or something like that. His mother was, they're all grown. Everybody was an adult except me. And he had even attacked a lady earlier that week or month, and they said the lady didn't want to press charges. But when the police went back to her and told her what he had done to me, that's when she agreed to press charges, because it was a child. Am I going to be mad at that lady? No. She did what she had to do for herself and her life, and thank goodness that she decided then to say something and help apprehend him, and she had to go through trial too. I don't even remember her name or her face. I remember seeing her, but they had to keep us away from each other because they don't want you comparing notes on the suspect. Because everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Anyhow, I didn't start screaming and carrying on with these people or calling the supervisor or passing out or calling the housing area and saying, oh, now I know what house he's in, tell the officers to mess with him. And stuff. I didn't do none of that. I did my job. I gave the information, and they went on their way. And I saw the mother say something to the sister about me because they saw my name. My last name was on my shirt, on my badge. So they recognized me. My face has been the same, it seems, since I was a baby. So, and I know they saw my mother, and my mother and I look very much alike. And my mother was in their face, from what I understand. So, again, I wasn't party to any of these things because you're not supposed to be. And I had a detective that was really nice to me, and she, helped walk me through the entire, grand jury and all of that. I thank God for her. And she went on to do really great things in the city at the time as an assistant DA and then as a district attorney. And I don't remember her name, but if I saw a picture, I'll probably know exactly who she was. But I want to thank her for her help. And they got me to the hospital, they got me to the private doctor, they got me to the police station, they got me to the mug shots, everything. But nobody said, oh, I wonder maybe we should take her to see a therapist or a psychologist. No, because nobody's thinking about these things. Nobody, not the judge, nobody. So anyway, that's just how it is. It was. So, I think that what Spirit said to me is that all of this acting out, all of this bitterness that Monique goes on with is because she hasn't healed from her trauma. And it's not just her trauma of what her brother did to her, because she eventually told on her brother, and he's admitted to what he's done. It was her father's reaction. She let loose while she was ranting, her and her husband, that DL reminds her of her father. Now, how does DL remind her of her father, you may ask? Well, she claims that when she told her father did nothing. That's what she said. He did nothing, and he turned around, and he went in his bedroom, and he drank. And he always kept drinking, and he never said anything. That was his reaction. Now, she's mad at her mother, too. I don't know what her mother's reaction was, but she's telling her parents that her brother is doing this. Anyway, so it came to Monique's attention, as she has been changing the subject to everything but the contract, that a few years ago, DL did an interview back in 2006, I believe it was, and he had said, was talking about Bill Cosby and people not believing women, and it's terrible that people not believe women, and he said that, for example, his daughter had told him that something had happened with a really close family friend, and he didn't believe her. And he said he regrets that to this day, that he didn't believe her, and he hurt her, and he knows he hurt her, and he has apologized. Well, somebody, allegedly, sent Monique that clip as all of this back and forth was going on with her and DL. And she decided to address DL's negligence and his character, and they're saying that that's why she called him a coward on stage when she said that she felt sorry for his wife because she had to perform fellatio on a coward. What? Yeah. But she used the D word. Anyway. So now she feels that she's validated. See, he's a coward. He didn't take care of his daughter, and I can't stand him because he'd been to my house. He's put his feet underneath my table and had dinner. She had a party, a Mike Tyson fight, and him and about 10 other people showed up to her house because they were supposed to be playing at a venue that night. And because of the fight, they didn't sell that many tickets. So instead of having the show, they decided to take the few people that it was in Baltimore, I guess, where she lived, and she invited everybody to come back to her house and watch the fight, which I'm sure was only like 30 seconds anyway, but because that's how much it was back then with, Mike Tyson. He would knock people out so fast. You can see the other, pre-fights, but then when you got to his, and I've had so many, I just like, and you had to pay per view back then. It was a whole big deal. So they were having a fight party. That was what people used to do back then. So she had a mold for a fight party, and he said it was a great time. They had great food. She's a great cook and the whole 9 yards. So she's saying that, you're a coward, blah, blah, blah. And, I told you what happened on your show. You didn't do nothing about it. And I've been meaning to get on you. And now here's the proof. And I knew there was something about you I'd never liked. And you remind me of my father. Oh, my God. So then D.L. Hewley's older daughter, not the daughter in question, clapped back and told Monique to mind her business, keep her parents' name, her sister's name, her brother's name, everybody's name out of her mouth. She got all kinds of things that she could have said about her father that would have been legitimate, but this was going too far, and that she had been, re-traumatizing her sister, which is what the audience that she's talking to, even the audiences are saying this to Monique in her live streams on the comments, and then, after it's over, she reads the comments, and she responds back with more videos, more live streams. Clicks. They need money, guys. This is all this is. They need money, and this is a way to make money. Instagram and YouTube. This is content. This is residual money. Just like anybody's, right? As long as you're monetized. I am not monetized right now because Kevin Samuels played some games with my account before he passed on. I found out later. So therefore, I can't get in touch with anybody at YouTube to start monetizing me again, which is, whatever. I was never doing this for the money to begin with, but that's not the point. It's not fair. And that's what I'm dealing with. But I'm not cussing nobody out. I'm not, I wasn't even, I didn't know about this until after he passed away. But it was like the day after I found out. 4:40. When I said that, it was the day after when I found out. But that's okay. Right? But people handle things differently. Right? And Monique, first of all, needs to go get her thyroid checked, because that could be a lot of the problem of what's going on with her. She looks great. She's lost a lot of weight. But we know how big Monique has been. And she can fluctuate back and forth with her weight. And that's another sign of hyperthyroid disease, and that could be something that she's dealing with also. And I had that. My daughter had borderline and hyperthyroid at the same time. But you gotta deal with the hand your daughter, the Lord gives you. That's okay. She lived, I lived, and I say to her, I've said to her, God knew that He had to give me to you to me, because somebody else would have killed her. She'd have been dead. Her and my son's father are the reason I never brought my gun home from work, because I knew where they would get me. So you do the things that you need to do to protect yourself, to protect those people, because they trigger you and they take you there. And so I knew that was not, I didn't want that anywhere around her or him. Her, because if she gets hold of a gun, it's going to be a problem for the entire community if she's in one of her, states. Now she's much, 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 much better than that, and I'm sure if she sees it, she can be mad at me, and she'll be triggered, and she'll go to the hospital, but she does that anyway, so what am I going to do? It doesn't matter. She's in her 40s. So it doesn't, they said that she would grow out of it when she got into her 30s. No. And she's had an operation, she's, for the thyroid and all of that, but it's chemical. It's part of her chemical makeup at this point. And I'm saying, it doesn't have to be that serious for Monique. It could just be that she's been triggered. So, having done such a wonderful job in that role, she may have gotten triggered and not healed from it. And Sydney always, like I said, he's a catalyst. He triggers her. He makes her deal with her stuff, whether it's on camera or not. And then he re-traumatizes her. And you can, if you listen really well and discernment, use your discernment, you can see that he's setting her up for a divorce. The way he phrases things, he's stacking evidence on her. If he ever have to turn that camera around on her, it's going to be ugly as heck. So right now, and especially, could you imagine being locked in 2 years with COVID? Thank you, God. I didn't have to, because my daughter's an adult and she has her own place, and she's fine, She's functioning very well, very intelligent. My grandchildren are twins, and they have 444. They have like IQs in the 130s and 140. It's not about intelligence or anything. It's just trauma, and they will say anything, and that's another thing. If Monique has been displaying this type of behavior since she was a kid, maybe her parents didn't know what to think. Now, we shouldn't say that, right? We should believe all children. We should believe all women, absolutely. But can you imagine the trauma a parent would have if they have a child that has a personality disorder that they know will say anything to get their way? Someone that you've seen in all kinds of different situations. So yes, you believe her, and you have to deal with this other child, and who knows what that child's mental state is, because if he grows up to be a rapist, so he might not have been too easy to deal with either. Who knows what was going on in that household, because All she focuses on is the negativity and the way that that affected her. She doesn't talk about the friend down the street, but she is so angry with her father because he didn't do nothing. Went in his room and drank. How do you know what he did? What did you want him to do to your brother, Monique? Put him in the jail? Sure, definitely. But would that have been enough? No, it sounds to me, Monique, like you wanted to see him beat him up, or I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. Oprah had her family on her show, and Monique went off, even though Oprah called and told her that her brother was coming on. Monique didn't appreciate it, but she wasn't going to be on the show with them. But at least Oprah had let her know. Well, it turns out that the brother came and the mother and the father came too. That's why Monique is hating on Oprah. Because Oprah didn't tell her her mother and father were coming. Well, Oprah says she didn't really know that the mother and father were coming. Her producers take care of all of that business. She just knew that the brother was coming, and that's why she took the liberty to call Monique and tell her. But she doesn't know that far in advance until she's ready to go on who else is going to be there. Is there going to be extra guests there and stuff? Because each show has its own producer that does. If you watch behind the scenes at Oprah, you'll figure out. You'll understand how that could have slipped. Monique is hating her to this day. But it's overboard. I mean, okay, so you had my mother on your show. Well, maybe you should have came on the show and y'all could have started to do some healing. Like, you're mad. Monique's father's dead now. And this lady says it rants over the last few days. She's saying that she hates him to this day. He's in his grave. Come on now. What part of and she don't want to hear nothing about, that's what she said, that they told her to give it to God and God gave it back to her. That's why she's cussing everybody out. Okay. But God now has your father. So why are you mad? I'm sure that God is addressing your father, has addressed your father. So let it go. Is God's chastisement not enough for you? But you want to see the karma? So you feel justified? That is something that needs to be healed. So anyway, DL's daughter, that was Our Lady of Sacred Union, number 37. In case anybody wants to know. DL's daughter told her, anytime you feel like you want to talk about me and my mother that you're insulting, or my sister that you're re-traumatizing and insulting, come see us. I'll give you my address. Pull up. So Monique, looking for clicks, don't want to come to the house and have a discussion offline with the family. She's like, oh no, we can go on your father's show and we can talk about it. So now, that's not happening. So she went so far as her latest rant was, you need to call out the name of the person who did this to your child because you said that they were a friend of your family, and that made everybody suspect. Man, really? Monique. So now, all the male comedians, that's what she's saying. And yes, she's right. Because since she brought it back up and has droned all on about it, and now people are watching it and whatever, and he didn't mention who it was. He just said it was a family friend. She's saying it puts a suspect on all of the male comedians, all of your friends, everybody in your family. Oh, she went there. And her husband says, and the best thing that you can do is to call out the name of this person. So is he the one that urged Monique to tell the world about what went on with her brother to begin with? But like I said, I think this all happened since she made that movie. Because they say to some people, when you act, you have to really embody that character. And it takes a lot out of you. I mean, it takes a lot out of me just doing readings and dealing with spirit, you know. I can imagine. Excuse me. The sun is coming up. My neighbor's roosters are roostering, crowing, whatever. Anyway, I gotta finish this. So, DL decided that he had enough. Because now his daughter was in it. His daughters are in it. His wife is in it. Monique is, challenging him to come to his show and let's talk about it, like all that. So now, and he already said that she was a terrible person and he should have never, ever, 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 ever booked with her again. And he's warned her that she messing around, she's going to end up putting herself out this business. Oh, and she is supported now by 50 Cent because 50 Cent had offered her a role. I guess he has a television show or something. I don't know. And so she's saying if 50 Cent is a salt of the earth, he's the next thing to Jesus. Do you know the things, and you're talking about protecting black women and all this, you know the things that 50 Cent has said about his son's mother? Do you know in New York City, her house got burned down, and there were news reports that he had threatened her 2 days before he was in court. They have that video of him going into court 2 days earlier, threatening her right in front of the judge, and 2 days later somebody threw a Molotov cocktail, which is like a bottle with gasoline in it, and it's on fire, and they throw it through your window, like they did to Malcolm X. And her house, with her and her son, burned down. And she told it all on the news, everything. And apparently because she left him and she had a new guy. And 50 allegedly, all this is allegedly, but this is what she said. I saw the news reports. And I was living here at the time, and this is just in Queens. And I'm, it's not that big. And she said that he burned her house down. And they've been going back and forth. And he doesn't even talk to his son. They got a really strange relationship right now. He has another child with another woman that he really, really is involved with. And I would imagine that Monique may not be up on all of the ins and outs of 50 Cent, and maybe Sydney isn't either, or Sydney, or they know and they're just acting stupid, or they're just taking his side, which they can, they have that right. But he said some nasty things about his child's mother, Monique, regardless of whether she deserved it or not. It was some foul stuff. So how you bigging him up? I don't want no beef with 50. Please, I don't. Because he can get me. I'm right here. But, I'm saying, who is advising you? This man is managing you, and but this to me again goes back to the level of there must be some type of financial desperation for you to glom on to 50 Cent. If it's a television role on a TV show, hey, I get it. But babe, you can't come with the I am woman, I am black woman, hear me roar, and standing up for everybody's civil rights when you are dealing with people like that. You called out Oprah, Tyler, DL, this other guy, the director, I can't remember his name. And I keep forgetting his name. You call all these people out, but you embracing 50 Cent. Oprah ain't got no kids that she's not speaking to. Tyler Perry's child lives in the house with him, from what I understand, eating and living, the expenses is killing him. He complained about it, I think I heard that. DL has children. Steve Harvey has children. He's questionable too, but I ain't heard nobody say nothing about his kids. So everybody either doesn't have kids or their kids are good. We don't know about your children, but we know that 50 and his son is not copacetic. So, what's going on, Monique? What are you there's something about that angry man. Maybe you need that because you got too much softness over there with Mr. Sidney, and maybe, 50 cents and you would be like the two sides of the same coin type of energy. And maybe daddy needs 50 around to help him control Monique. Okay, makes sense. All right, well, we'll see. Anyway, DL had enough. So here's his response: fair use for educational purposes. I'm going to play you what he said.
He used to love me, so I know that I said that I'd done all I could here about this whole Monique situation. But over the weekend, her and her husband released a video where I was doing an interview and I detailed my daughter's sexual trauma. Monique has taken that video and perverted it for her own use, and she decided to add her own narrative. I will only say this, and I'm answering this now in response to a request from my daughter, who, of course, over the weekend was crying, of course, having her trauma, tried it out in front of the world in a situation she had nothing to do with, that doesn't have anything to do with a contract, would be traumatizing to anybody, particularly when it's from somebody who claims to love us for real. But she proceeded to talk about how I let a man touch my child, which nothing could be further from the truth. They were both 13 years old. They were friends that had grown up together. She told me about it years later, and when she told me about it, I and this is something I lament to this day, denied that I said, well, that's what kids do. Now, that was my estimation of it. It was not her interpretation of it. She was hurt by that. And I will never forgive myself for not, A, believing her, and B, handling it the way I did. But for Monique, A, to put a man in that room, which never happened, and B, to bring up sexual trauma in an argument that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, is unconscionable. My daughter Tyler addressed it, my daughter Ryan addressed it with her in the letter. And the thing that I was most proud about in the letter is not only that she held her head high, because she's supposed to. The other thing is, she said there are legitimate things you could have gone after my father about, because my children know exactly who I am. They know that I'm not perfect. They know that I'm flawed. And none of them would have a problem with you assailing things that are really true. But you and your husband putting a man in my daughter's room, and that is not what I said, and you weaponizing it and using in a trite argument shows exactly how low you are. You are a monster. You literally are. You didn't play Precious. You didn't play Precious's mother. You let her out. You stopped pretending to be human, and you won a role for being you won a Oscar for being exactly who you are. Who says they love women and are there for women and protect the babies and would trot out someone's sexual trauma just to use in an argument? I don't know anything about you. I know that what happened to to you when you were a child, what happened to you when you were growing up, those things are traumatic to you, and I would never bring them up. Never. It would never occur to me to do it. Because that's not where I live. That's not what I do. You have had this argument or this show be about everything. It was about a contract. It was not. It was about an insult on the radio station, on my radio station. The question never aired. You know it never aired. And you continue to have this. And then you have the temerity to answer my daughter's letter with an invitation to come on my show. I will never let you on my show. Never. We will never talk to my children. I will never have anything to do with me. You do not exist. Maybe leaving my children out of your mouth will leave you room for the food you love so much. Look, you can continue to do whatever you want to me. That is fair game. I'm in this business. For you and your husband to continue to do things like this, you have already, first it was a contract. You've attacked everything. The dog, my wife, now my children. Enough. You do not exist to us. You don't get to break my family. You don't get to do that. I don't know if you ever had a man who loved you as much as I love my children. I don't know if you've ever had anybody who's standing in your stead, because the man next to you damn sure ain't doing it. All he's doing is wrecking what's left of the rubble of a career that you're pretending to build, trying to build back. Leave my children alone. Stay with me and we're fine. You're a horrible woman. You love women like Ike loves Tina. And that girl over there, well, I shouldn't call you a girl, this woman over here, you know one thing for sure. I love you.
His daughter was in the studio when he was doing
You
it.
don't have to pay me for it.
And then he just
I
laughed.
hope that you're happy and you can stop being such a miserable, low human being. Maybe one day you will get to be as small as you often act. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the JED report coming up in 15 minutes.
Okay, Mr. GED section. That was... Anyway. Oh, Lord. But his daughter was in the studio listening. She's not on camera. But she was listening to him, and she laughed at the jokes. So, she's good. She loves her dad. And she understands that. And listen, we're a certain age, folks. We're getting, DL, Monique, all of us. Lee Daniels. We're all, well, maybe Lee Daniels is a little younger. I can't tell. I don't know much about him. But we're in a certain age group, right? And kids used to play. Let's see. Lady of the Dark Mysteries again. I guess I'm supposed to tell y'all this. We used to do these things. We didn't realize that they were abuse. We played doctor and stuff like that. I didn't have that happen to me with my, friends and that kind of stuff. Nobody did that. Nobody tried to play doctor with me. But it was a thing. And that's what parents would, look at it as, especially in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when Monique was growing up. So, but I'm sure that Monique did not give her parents any room to think there was anybody playing doctor with her. That was rape, and it was repetitive and ongoing, and her brother allegedly, too, and he has admitted to it on Oprah's show, that he passed her around to his friend. So, that was his response. I'm glad that was his response. Now, as far as Jada and Will go, we know about the slap that was heard around the world, the Oscar slap. Yes. But the other night, on the Red Table Talk, which is on Facebook, I am on Facebook, And I don't really listen to Jada. I only watched it the time with that, August Alsina incident. And then they said that she was going to have this table talk that night. And we were going to talk about alopecia. And alopecia affects a whole lot of us, right? And I said, okay, well, this should be interesting. So they talked about alopecia and how it affects Jada and whatever, and that she's in these support groups, and there's a community of people that are experiencing this, and black women too. We also know a lot of us have been going through this hair loss thing over the last few years, right? It's become a thing. And the dermatologists don't have any, explanation for it or anything like that. But there are also people in other communities across racial lines, and men also, who are experiencing this hair loss syndrome. So apparently, there's a little girl, and she's like 12 years old, and she has alopecia. And she decided to be very brave and shave all her hair off. Because when you have alopecia, sometimes it grows in spots and things like that. And after a while, you get sick of trying to, cover it up or, whatever. And she just had her head shaved. So then I think it was her aunt or her grandmother, bought her this really nice wig that she loved and looked really natural on her. And she went to school. And as bullies do, they bullied her, they made fun of her, whether she had the alopecia, whether she had a bald head, and now that she had the wig, they were going in. To the point where some kid even pulled the wig off of her. And she was involved in the alopecia group and everything, and they would talk, and, Jada was aware of what was going on with her story, and that how she was handling and dealing with these bullies at school. And so her mother was on the show telling the story about her daughter's alopecia experience. And then her mother says that one morning, she was expecting to hear her daughter's little footsteps, bounding out to, complain about getting ready for school or whatever like that, at the time that, the alarm clock goes off every day. And she listened for the footsteps, and she didn't hear the footsteps. And then she said she called out for her, and, come on, you're going to be late, get up. She didn't answer her. And she went to the room, and the girl had transitioned herself. She couldn't take it anymore. The bullying had gotten so bad. Her mother didn't expect that. Her mother thought that she was handling it. She's spoken to the other mothers and parents at school. These kids wouldn't stop, how children are teenagers, right? 12, 13 years old. And her little girl was gone because of these bullies. So now this happened on March 14th. The Oscars was on March 21st or 22nd. Not that many days. So now, Will has been dealing with Jada with this alopecia. And so that maybe she's been, she talked about how she's been going through it. She's been crying, and the hair comes out in her hands, and she's been trying to do so many things, and sometimes it grows, sometimes it doesn't. Then she just went ahead and cut it all off, and that's something, right? And he's been a supportive husband. So now, I'm sure that he's quite aware of the fact, even if he didn't know the story up until then when that little girl passed away, you know that he knew about it, because I'm sure that all of them knew about it, the whole household. They were probably very, very upset. Whether he was, crying along with them or not, he may have, may not. I don't know. Our Lady of the Inner Gate. Yeah. Yeah. The family knew about it. He knew about it. He knew about it. So, when Chris Rock made that joke, it wasn't about Jada and her hair. And that's why Jada rolled her eyes. Because that girl had just died. And at first, Will laughed. And then, when he saw Jada's face, it wasn't sickum. He remembered that little girl. And that's why he said that he was acting like Richard Williams in the King Richard, that he was protecting his family again. He was protecting that little girl. Now, meantime, the mother of the little girl is on Red Table Talk, and she says that when she was watching the Oscars that night and she saw what Will did, she said she felt like the universe had, like her daughter had talked to the universe and told them to tell Will to do that. Like she said, she knew that her daughter was up in heaven celebrating. So again, without having all the background facts, just like Monique did not have all the background facts, we may have misjudged the situation. Doesn't mean that it was right for Will to slap anybody. I ain't saying that at all. But don't bullies deserve to get... Come on, folks. Have you been bullied? Or have you been the bully? You know somebody owes you a slap. And as I said before, Chris knew better. Chris made that movie about hair. He should not have gone there. Doesn't mean that Will had a right to put his hands on him. But I'm saying, it was a reaction of a parent, a reaction of a husband, a friend. And he just, like the mother said, she felt like he channeled her daughter. Because that's what she wanted to do. So, it was very, very enlightening. It made sense. It put an empathy on Will, towards Will. And that Will had empathy for the whole situation, to the point that he jeopardized his career because, again, he didn't protect his mother. And so now he had a chance to protect, not even protect, because now this girl was gone. So he couldn't protect her either. And she was in his inner circle. Okay. She was behind the gate. She had become part of the family. So anyway, that's, to me, grace. That we should be able to give Will some grace going forward. And maybe Chris knows about the story too. You know, who knows what they do up there. And maybe that's why he told them not to put that joke in, but he said it anyway. I don't know. But it's not a big community, you know. And I mean, the alopecia community is a large community, but I'm saying the entertainment community is. Or maybe he's heard the story since then, and then he got it, and that's why he didn't want to talk about it. Because then you have to talk about the little girl, and you don't have permission from her parents to bring her up and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to even mention her name. But if you have a chance, you go on Facebook, go to Jada Pinkett Smith, put in Red Table Talk, and it should come up. It should be up on YouTube pretty soon, too. I think they usually release snippets of it, and I'm sure they're going to want as many people as possible to hear this redemption of Will's image, because I guess that's would have been what Monique wanted her father to do, and instead he just went in his room and he drank. Monique, you don't know what happened to your father in his life that you may have, this whole situation may have triggered, besides the fact that he has 2 children who he has to now choose between, right? Because that's how he's going to look at it. That's how parents, it's like Sophie's Choice again, right? You got to, which of these children you're going to sacrifice your son to protect your daughter? Who wants to be faced with that? And all Monique saw was him being an alcoholic. But he was an alcoholic before this. This whole time he's been an alcoholic. So, why is that? So you gotta find out. I mean, he's not here for you to find out, but maybe your mother knows if you bother to talk to her, but you don't speak to her. But I was fortunate enough. My father was an alcoholic, but I knew where it came from because my father told me about it and I remembered it. This is an enmeshment again. Parents sharing too much, but at least he had somebody to tell it to. And it was either me or the bottle. And if he got angry, he would get violent. And when I was assaulted, my mother and father were divorced, but my father was like 2 trains away from us. We saw him every weekend. We talked to him on the phone all the time. It just, he didn't have access to my mother. Once they got divorced, he never put his hands on her no more. Because he knew then it was, see, back in the day, generation or whatever y'all are this time, whatever y'all giving us all this fever about, husbands didn't go to jail for beating up their wives. The police would come and tell them to take a walk. They take them outside. They talk to them, run them around in the car, let them get it out. But very rarely would a man go to jail or even get booked or anything for beating his wife. Even if you told your pastor, you know, it was very secretive about it, or, well, that alpha male bullshit. That's what that was, right? Back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. You see, now that they got laws to protect women, which President Biden, by the way, put on the books when he was a senator. So let that marinate. He's the one who has it now that they can't get away with this nonsense no more. That was the bill that he made sure got signed into Congress. I think the only problem with that is that they didn't cover the women on the native lands, and that was a big deal. It still is a big deal, I think. But men used to beat their wives on a regular basis. I know. I lived in apartment buildings, and I heard and seen it going on, and there was more than one woman screaming on Saturday nights, especially after they got their paychecks. That's what happened in the communities, and it was just black women, it was white women, it was everybody, Puerto Rican women, everybody. I live in the city, babe. That's how it was. Not every household, but if there were 10 households, maybe 3 otherwise, 4 maybe, were experiencing that. And if they weren't fist fighting, 8 of them, 8 of the families at least was throwing plates and using, oh, come on, they used to have those rolling pins. We still have rolling pins, but I mean, that was the thing that the women would hit the husbands with them rolling pins. I seen my mother hit my father in the top of his head with the telephone. Boom! Let me tell you, that was wrong of her, but but that was nothing compared to the things that he's done to her. So, whatever happened to me when I got attacked, my mother wanted to make sure that my father knew what happened. And she went to my aunt's house, which is, he lived really close to my aunt, in the same area in Harlem. Not next door, but a train stop away. And my aunt called him and told him to come. And that my mother was there and they needed to talk. And it had to do with the children. So my father's like, gets there. And my mother said that she told him, but she made sure that his sister was there just in case he got crazy. And she said my father just got up and did like that and left. Walked out the house, didn't say a word to nobody. My mother and my aunt looked at each other like, what? He just got up and walked out. So, that's what Monique said her father did. He walked out. And she said he went into his room and he drank. I know my father's an alcoholic. So I'm sure. I would think. My mother said by the time she got back to her house in Brooklyn, on the train, it was my father's physician. And my mother is still his next to, emergency contact. My father had gone from my aunt's house straight to his doctor. And he told his doctor that he was going to find what had happened. This is his physician, not a psychiatrist. He told him what had happened to me. And the doctor called my mother to tell her to tell the police to make sure they pick that man up. Please. Because he knew that my father was going to kill him. He called my mother and he called the precinct. And because he wanted to find out what precinct and everything, because he said that my father was going to kill that man. And I have no doubt that if that's what my father told his doctor, that's what he intended to do. Because he wasn't worried about going to jail. Could care less. Not that he'd been to jail before. But word on the street is, he killed somebody before. But that was down south. You can get away with killing black people down south, especially when you got out of, just got out of the military. I didn't know about that for a while. And my father and I never, ever, ever, ever talked about it. But my mother did tell me about it after everything was, they had put the person, they arrested him. When he got arrested, that's when my mother told me what the doctor had said and everything, and that she had told my father. I didn't know that she had told him none of that. I wasn't, I wasn't, I wasn't part of any of those conversations. And my father and I never talked about it. And me and my father are close, tight. Okay. Well, we never talked about it. But I knew that he would have defended me if he had had the opportunity, and that his intentions were to do that he went so far as to tell his own doctor. That means he didn't care. And that's important to know. So Monique, you don't know what your father did. You don't know. But what was he to do? And what happened to the other guy, Monique? Did anything untoward happen to the other fellow? Did maybe just your father was a peaceful man. Maybe, and he just couldn't do anything about it. Now, DL, his daughter was 13, the boy was 13. And she didn't tell him about it until years later when he said it was a family friend. It was a family friend because their families hung out together. They grew up together. They're like cousins, right? That's what happened. And she didn't tell her father about it until she was grown up and he was grown up. That's why he said, no, that didn't happen. Because it was a friend. You know what I'm saying? It's like he was... Listen, we're all not, perfect. And we react in ways that we shouldn't. We're human like anybody else. Parents are human beings. They don't give us instruction booklets, folks. And Monique knows that because she's had children. She doesn't get no booklets. They don't. They may give you some diapers and some formula, but there's no instructions even with that. We got to wing it. And if we don't have good role models, or if we wasn't paying attention, or if we're trying some newfangled way of raising kids, there were books. You can go and buy books. Dr. Spock was popular back when we were kids. And that's why we are the way we are. And maybe somebody needs to tell these millennials and these Generation Xers or whatever that their parents and grandparents were raised on Dr. Spock. And his theories have been proven to be a little, maybe. But maybe if they understood that this is something that they were programmed on. Dr. Spock's way of, dealing with children. It was like a series of books. It was just the way they took this man's advice on children, like throughout education and the whole 9 yards. Maybe that'll help y'all understand how it was just different. They didn't have the internet. You want something, you go to the library, and if somebody had that book out, you couldn't read it too. You know what I'm saying? It was, y'all have no idea how it was at the time. Just what I'm saying is just have some compassion and empathy for us old people who aren't as up on all of these things and trying. We didn't have access. Our parents didn't have access, and so it has affected us today. And we are your parents, right, or your grandparents, and you're like, what the hell is wrong with these folks? They're letting these people get away with this stuff. But it was just the way, Women weren't allowed to wear pants when we were growing up. Y'all don't get it. Y'all letting these people slide with this bullshit with the abortion and birth control. Y'all better get on that. I don't know what you're going to do. But we fought that fight hard. Hard. And once they mess with the abortion, it'll be your IUDs and your diaphragm and your pills, and you'll be doing the rhythm method all the way down to the hospital to keep birthing babies, because you'll be getting pregnant on top of getting pregnant. Don't believe that bullshit. You can't get pregnant when you're nursing, because yes, you can. Because they're going to tell you that nonsense too. Oh, it's a natural way of birth control. Don't believe that bullshit. Lies. All right? So, just saying, girls, be careful. Anyway, let's get a card for this situation. Get a card for the situation. Let's get a card of healing, please, Spirit. What does the collective need to know about this besides reacting and responding? See, we all have been reacting, including the Academy, regarding Will and Jada and Chris. And we've been reacting because we are feeding into Monique's trauma and comedy and entertainment, and we're bored, and it's the internet. We've gotten so used to watching YouTube instead of watching TV during the pandemic. She's got a good audience, and she got Instagram. She's exercising on TV, on online, and all of this. Just clickbait. Anyway, I'm not following her. Wasn't following her before. I don't even go on Instagram like that. But I went on there to follow DL's daughter, though. I like her style. I like her style. I like her style. And her husband is Puerto Rican, and she was making a joke. She does not hate black people. She's just sick of them right about now. And don't say that y'all haven't felt that way. But her husband's Puerto Rican, and in the East Coast, I don't know where DL's from. He might be from the East Coast, down south. But Puerto Ricans is black in New York. That's how we grew up. It's a whole different mindset. We didn't have all these different ethnic groups within the Latino community growing up. Those of us who are in the 60s and 50s and 70s, we had that. Everybody was a Puerto Rican, whether they're from Mexico or Ecuador or Venezuela or Uruguay or Paraguay or Peru or wherever they were. If you had an accent, if you were black, you was West Indian, and if you were Latino, you was Puerto Rican. Those were the two categories. Horrible, prejudice, whatever you want to say, but there was nothing. This patriarchal society just got the Civil Rights Bill passed in the 60s, folks. That means we weren't voting. Folks, the Voting Rights Act is not an amendment, it's not a law, it's an act. Meaning it comes up for review every few years, and it is under review, and that's when the Supreme Court allowed them to take away the pre-clearance, and that's how the Republicans have been taking over the elections. Y'all gotta pay attention to this stuff. For real. This is serious shit. Later for Monique. Monique got more money than most of us will ever have. But she needs to make sure that it lasts her a little while, because I don't know. That last thing from DL, that should be shutting this whole conversation down. I hope she don't keep trying to get DL to tell the name of this boy that did this. That's fucked up, because at this point it's alleged, because they never went to the police or anything like that. And you don't know who, this boy could be 50 Cent for all you know, miss. This boy could be Sydney for all you know, miss. Depending on what age the daughter is. But she's an adult. She's in her 20s, I guess, right? So the boy would be in his 20s also. You want to ruin a 20-year-old man, black man's career, You want to make him a sex offender because he did something to another 13-year-old. They didn't know that that's what it was called, assault. But she didn't tell her father about it. And who knows who this man is. Maybe he's your producer, promoter, Monique. All right, I'm going to get one card for you, Monique. And let's see what the Mother Mary deck needs. Because, Monique, you need to get some therapy and you need to talk to your mother and find out from your mother. Or if you have aunts or uncles or grandparents that you can speak to, find out what may have happened to your dad. Or maybe you know already. And you're just being, like you're not being empathetic towards him. And that's all that masculine energy that you have. And Sydney should be around you because he balances you out. He has the capabilities, but instead, he's being a hayoka. He's being a catalyst for you. But he's letting you sit in it rather than directing you to get some help. But that's what they do. And then you lose enough weight and you whittle away. You pass away, get a heart attack, whatever like that. Ooh, he's straight, ain't he? Girl, you better take... Our Lady of Starting Over. Number 29. 2 and 9 is 11. What is that about, ma'am? Number 29. All right. Had one stuck in there already. Our Lady of Becoming. Number 3. So, starting over and becoming. There's some growth. There's some growth. That's needed or that you'll be going through. And if this message resonates for anyone else that comes across this video, and thank you for hanging out and watching the video and giving us a thumbs up so that other people know I'm here. Our Lady of Starting Over. She has a heart that she's clutching close to her. Very passionately. See all the rays? It's all red and green. Red roses and green leaves. And all the vines. Soon it will be time to leave something behind you. I know that you may grieve this loss even when you know deep within that it's best to let it go. Allow me to nourish you with the courage that you need and the realization that this change is happening so that you can flourish and thrive. Your growth serves the growth of others also. You shall not cause loss or harm to that which you are releasing. All moves in my grace. Surrender your fear, your doubt, and trust in my unconditional loving grace for all beings. All situations have their purpose, but new purpose is calling you forward now. Even though it might be unfamiliar territory that you are feeling attracted towards, don't try to hide from it or avoid it. The Mother is guiding you, telling you that this is indeed the right way forward. The timing may already be happening or will be happening soon. There's no need to force things, for you will know when it is time to move on. Yet, this oracle tells you If it doesn't feel like time yet, it soon will. What does this moving on look like? It could be literal, as in the end of a relationship or a business arrangement. So, it could be people pulling out of business arrangements, getting rid of that promoter. Or it could be a change in where you live. It could be letting go of an old identity or belief system. Or may even be the releasing of a set of limitations that you placed on yourself because you thought that those limitations were appropriate for your age and for your role in life or for some other reason. And now maybe you're questioning that. Our Lady of Starting Over comes with guidance to forgive and live. Guidance to feel all of your emotions and to make peace as honestly as you can with whatever has transpired. Not to be good, but to be free. Don't just let it go. Forgive it and release it. Because letting it go is what you did and you held on to it. And it's erupted now because you didn't address it. When DL blew you off, you should have addressed it. Not Sydney, you. You should have said, yo, and called him back. Or, like I said, had him and the family over for dinner later. But you got to let things go and you got to let it go with forgiveness. And stop, building blocks, moving the goalpost. Be mad at the promoter. It don't got nothing to do with DL. Remember that people act according to their circumstance, their consciousness, and their wounds. Perhaps doing the best they can in that circumstance, but still not being very skillful or aware. They may cause harm, but you can move past this. Even if this pain was inflicted upon you personally. In time, with Mother's help, you'll feel acceptance and peace through cultivating an awareness that there must have been a reason for acting in that way. And their reason has nothing to do with you and everything to do with their own consciousness and wounding. How you respond to the pain of the past is what is relevant to your own growth now. Our Lady of Starting Over arises when you need help to put the past, especially a painful past, to rest. You're entering into a time when the loving mother's support will be helpful as you step into a new path. She says that you're entitled to be free from all that has been, free to treat each and every moment as a completely fresh start, so as to release guilt and shame and feel empowered to choose now based on what's in your heart. She says that her heart is larger than all of your past suffering or your confusion. So trust in her to help love you through this transition and support you in starting over now. All is well, beloved. Do not worry nor fear. You can trust the flow of your life. And when you need to take a step, and the timing is right, deep within, with the mother's helpful assistance, you will know when to act and what to do. If you've been praying for a new start, but are yet to feel that happening, This oracle comes with a special message for you. Your beginning is on its way to you now. Stay in the faith of your heart and trust in the Mother's divine timing for you. There are some final connections, communications, and resolutions that need to happen for the current life phase to be completely karmically. To be completed karmically. Oh, I don't know what that was. Tired. 5:46. There'll be some final connections, communications, and resolutions that need to happen for the current life phase to be completed karmically. It won't be long now, and soon you'll be ready and free to move on with a fresh start and a refreshed heart. And there's a healing process and affirmations in here. So Monique, Our Lady of Starting Over, Oracle deck. I know church folk don't believe in this kind of stuff, but this is beautiful spiritual energy. I have many names and faces beyond those names and faces. I'm your loving mother always. I come to you in light and darkness, through joy, and even, my beloved, through loss and tragedy. I am always your loving mother. I am seeking you. 11/11/34 when I said that. That's the tape time. If you can know this, then great peace and spiritual power will be yours. I am always your loving mother. I am seeking you. If you can know this, then great peace and spiritual power shall be yours, and you will help me bring love to this world. Remember, I'm your loving mother always. And picture, Mother Mary picture holding the baby, right? Jesus. But we all need a mother. Mother Mary Oracle. That might be what you need. Maybe you need to go to church, get baptized, or go by the water. Go by the water. Get some fresh air. I'm telling you, it's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Go out in nature, get some fresh air, and make those changes, Monique. Talk to somebody, get a therapist. You could even talk to me if you want to, but I ain't down with the nonsense. But, like I said, fellow Sagittarius, I'm scared to look. I'm going to do this. Fellow Sagittarius, what is Monique's date of birth? Monique. Look at you. Just like Cher. One word. Everybody knows it's you. Monique Angela Hicks. I knew you was an Angela. Okay. December 11th, 1967. Girl, age 54. So you married Sydney Hicks and Mark Jackson, sorry. And her children are Shalom Jackson, David Hicks, Mark Jackson Jr., and Jonathan Hicks. So she has 2 boys from the first marriage and 2 boys from the second marriage. Okay. So she has 3 brothers and sisters, Gerald, Millicent, and Steve. That's funny. I call my sister, that's not her name, but I call her Millicent. Oh, she's pretty. Nice looking girl. You can see it. And Millicent. That's Monique's sister. Okay. Okay. Pretty girl. So anyway, yeah. And where'd she grow up? In Baltimore, right? Yeah. They grew up in Baltimore. But yeah, I think her father's passed away. Her mother might be still here. But she ain't talking to her, right? Yeah. Oh. Is that her? It says is married. Oh, she had an actress on the show that had the same name as her mother? No, this is wrong. IMDb, she's Monique's mother. But they have her as an actress known for the Parkers and the Oprah Winfrey Show. Well, she was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, I guess. An Intimate Portrait. They have 4 children. But this might be her. Maybe she did pass away. Alice Josephine Imes. Okay. Monique Imes, yeah, comedian. So her mother passed away in 2018. June 5th. That was yesterday. Oh, that's why. Okay. That's why Monique's acting up too. It's the time when her mother passed away. Oh, man. Oh, pobrecita. She don't even understand. It's the energy. When did her father pass away? Jesus. Stephen Imes. In his service. August 13th. That's when the viewing was. The memorial. When did he pass away? July 23rd. July 23rd, 2016, and he was born July 13th. Folks, we're going to have a Monique meltdown for the next couple weeks. So just know that. Just know that. Okay. Not a bad looking guy either. That's a dad. Steven. She might cuss me out for that. But it's on the internet. Same way you put a DL stuff. But he's a good looking man. Yeah. He's not bad looking. My mother's not bad looking either, Alice. Let's see this picture of Alice. This is on her obituary. Look, I'll show you. Alice Josephine. Beautiful. Good looking folks. Even her crazy brother, the bad guy, he's not too bad looking. Don't trust him in an alley or anything. I don't know. Not a bad looking man, her father, I don't know. Wow. I wonder what they would say about her. You can't even see the movie, the interview on Oprah. I guess she had that, she called lawyers or something. But here's her brother. He dead. Okay, it's a heartbreaking thing to accept. Oh, this is what her mother said. Okay. Okay. Brother, I molested Monique. Gerald Imes confesses to Oprah. The actress's brother, Gerald Imes, says he has molested Monique when they were kids, beginning when she was about 7 and he was 13. This is from 12 years ago. Quote, unquote. And this is Black Planet. WRNBHD2.com. Fair use. The monster Monique says she channeled in her, She channeled in her Oscar. It's like you let a spirit in that you haven't released, honey. That may be the water part. Maybe you need to release that. Seriously, you need to do some kind of a ritual to release that spirit. Your Oscar-winning turn as Mary Jones in Precious hits Oprah Winfrey show today. Well, this is the day that your brother was getting interviewed. Okay. Gerald says he molested Monique when they were kids. When she was about 7, he was 13. Imes, who has been estranged from Monique, says he apologized in order to bring back some family unity. I'm here today to first acknowledge that I've been in denial for 37 years. And that is, I did assault and inappropriately touch my sister in manners that were uncomfortable for her, Imes said. And for that I apologize, and I'm humbly sorry for those actions that had taken place. Imes wanted to appear on the Oprah show to publicly apologize to Monique in the hopes of bringing the family back together. Hopefully somewhere, somehow, as siblings, we can come back together as brother and sister. I thought it was normal. Gerald reveals that he himself was molested as a child and began doing drugs and alcohol when he was 11 to cope with the abuse. While Monique's brother doesn't excuse his actions, he said he thought this was all normal behavior. I accepted it as being the norm. I started using cocaine, heroin, alcohol at the age of 11. I used to do drugs to hide my own pain. Fear at that age kept me from acknowledging my own abuse. The drugs weren't an excuse, he says. They just allowed me the opportunity to do the things that were in the back of my mind as a kid that I always wanted to do. So it helped him fulfill his fantasies, his bucket list. Ironically, Monique previously revealed to Oprah that she was able to draw on her tragic past to portray Mary Jones, the abusive mother in the film Precious, the role that earned her an Academy Award. And that's based on a novel by Sapphire. Right? I knew very well who that monster was, said Monique at 42. I knew Mary Jones. So when the director would say action, that's the monster I became. For years, Gerald denied his sister's allegations and refused all interview requests. He says he hasn't spoken to Monique in years, but is finally ready to tell the truth. I'm here today to first acknowledge that I've been in denial for 37 years. And that is, I did assault and inappropriately touch my sister in manners that were uncomfortable for her. And for that I apologize, and I'm humbly sorry that those actions had taken place. Monique's parents also appeared on the show, who looked sad and shell-shocked. It was such a heartbreaking thing to accept, says her mother, Alice. Monique's dad, Gerald, was stunned the sexual abuse had occurred under his own roof. I think of behaviors like this, and you can accord them with other people, with other families, he said. When it comes to your doorstep, when it comes to your houses. Hey, good morning, black man. Hey! Yes, I watched you the other day. I loved your podcast the other day. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. Very well done. With all the ladies. You think behaviors like this, and you accord them to other people, to other families, he said. When it comes to your doorstep, when it comes to your own household, there's a total state of confusion. That's what I was saying before. He didn't know what to do. What are you going to do? Those are your children. He's 13 and she's 7. What did you want him to do? He said he didn't do it. You're wrong. He was wrong for lying. He was wrong for lying, and father didn't know what to do. He really didn't know what to do. That's what he's saying. That's not enough, Monique. but you probably didn't. You didn't watch it because you didn't let them air the episode. And he did say he was sorry that he didn't handle it well. You said that yourself, but you didn't care. It wasn't good enough. That's the scary part there, ma'am. That's the part that's scary. That the apology from your father wasn't enough. I hope you have an apology for DL. I hope you have an apology for his daughter finally. She was a child. She was 13. Same age as your brother was. But her assailant was the same age as she was. But they were close. They were like brother and sister. They grew up together. And her father reacted messed up too. But he apologized. And she is there with him, laughing at you. So, maybe you need to do some healing. Because you need to understand what it is to forgive and accept an apology. It's not easy for men to apologize. But your daughter, imagine your father would have killed for you. And now you're asking him to kill his son. You're not asking him, but that's what you're challenging him with. And maybe he couldn't do that. And maybe that's why he drank, Monique. Maybe that. Maybe he was a coward. Could be. Yes, but that doesn't take away your capacity to forgive, because the forgiveness is not for them. The forgiveness is for you, so that you can release it and process it, and then it's gone. Understand and accept this happened for a reason. And you know what the reason was for? Unfortunately, that experience led you through your life path to be the tough person that stands up for themselves and to win a friggin' Oscar, man. That's what that experience did to you. That was the reward the universe gave you back for all that you went through. So can you just be grateful and forgive? You've done things in your life, I'm sure, Monique, that warranted someone forgiving you. And they may have. And you accepted it with grace, I'm sure. So why not forgive with grace and apologize with grace? And maybe things will turn around. Maybe things will get even better. Because you cannot believe that Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, will not light, I don't even want to say light you up because he might burn your house down. But he is not the one to play with. He's nuttier than you are. So, I don't know if she'll ever hear this. Not that I meant for her to, but I guess I do. I guess they want her to hear this, so I don't know. Anybody got a way to get it to her? You can get her this video. I try not to go in on her too much, because I get it, I understand. But I've been that parent also who has to know whether or not this child, who has already shown a lot of emotional problems, is she telling me the truth? I want to believe it, but I don't want to believe it because I don't even want to believe it happened. There's so many layers to this shit, Monique. You got boys, maybe. You haven't had that situation. But you know, the girl child ain't safe in a world full of men, right? So, it's different. And my daughter waited until she wanted something. She wanted me to paint her room a different color. I just bought the house. We were moving in. The house had just been painted. She didn't like the color. I don't even want to talk about it. But I'm telling you, parents sometimes in some situations get put into a rough place. But I believed her. Picked up the phone. I called the precinct where this happened, because it was she was with her grandparents allegedly when this happened, because it didn't happen when she was with me. And her grandparents, she got a grandmother, grandfather, and an aunt. Come on, she's always with somebody, and she was going there every summer. She never told me when it happened, and she waited until she was 16 or 17. 17. My brain, it was like an out-of-body experience. Like, what do you mean? Because all I know is, all my life I wanted to do is make sure that this did not happen, that I protected her. And her grandmother promised me that I would not have to ever worry about that. I got on the phone after I talked to the police, and they said that because it happened so many years ago, she couldn't even remember how old she was, and she couldn't even remember how old he was, but there's not that big an age difference between them, maybe 3 years. There's a name for it in New York. It's not even statutory rape, but it's considered that, but it's another level of it. There's nothing that they do when they're in a certain age range of one another. Maybe that's a law that they have in your state too. That may be a law. Yeah. In your state too. Maybe your father looked into it. Maybe he knew what was going to happen. Did you want your brother to go to the detention center at 13, 14? His friend down the street? Yeah, maybe. But what happened to the guy down the street, since you want to name names and stuff? Stop it, Monique. Just not let it go. Just process all of your emotions, everything that has happened to you. And do it. Do it. Cry if you have to. But understand your parents can only do the best that they could with the information that they have. And your father said he just couldn't believe that this was happening in his house. He got a beautiful, beautiful family, including you. Gorgeous children, beautiful wife and husband. How could this be happening? How did we not see this? It's hard. It's not the easiest position for a father to be in or a mother to be in. But especially a father. Because maybe your father would have killed him, and maybe the alcohol kept him from doing that, honey. Now, maybe that'd be okay with you. But your brother has apologized, and he's gone to jail. Not for this thing with you, but for something else that he did. So, the secret's out. We know who he is. He's a rapist. Right? But your mother and father didn't do it. Maybe you felt they enabled it, but it was not their intention. And you are not doing nothing to them by being angry. You ain't hurting nobody. I'm not telling you to accept your brother and your siblings, whoever, if you speak to the other ones or not, back into your life, or, put them on the, gravy train with Sydney. I'm not telling you to do none of that. None of that. I'm telling you to forgive, understand that it was part of your journey, that you signed up for this experience, all of your experiences. You agreed to do those things when you came in to this consciousness in this life, because your ancestors had a mission for you, that you were going to overcome something. And maybe it is to bring these things out that you're bringing out and all of that. So know that this is part of your mission that you claim to be on. You wouldn't be able to talk about these things if this hadn't happened to you. Bringing the light to other people. That's what we do in, well, this community, of tarot community. That's what happens. Because after a while, it's not about the cards, it's about sharing what's happening, sharing your ascension, your awakening. But when you resist that awakening, then what's happening is what's happening. But again, when we react instead of respond, we get a better result. Had we waited and given Will the grace to explain that he was triggered by that little girl's death, now we get it. Maybe Chris Rock knows it. Maybe that's why he hasn't pressed any charges. Maybe they told him. I don't know. But I'm saying, if you have the video, Monique, in your possession, maybe you should watch it if you haven't already. But if you have watched it, try to watch it from a different perspective, right? You're an actress. You know how to take on a role. Put yourself in your mother's place. Put yourself in your father's place. At that time, in your home, all that was going on, plus work and school, everything else. Put yourself in their place just for 15, 20 minutes. And think about, how would you feel if you had to choose between your children? How would you feel if something like that happened in your home and you didn't see it and you couldn't protect your child from it? Of course you feel like a coward, yes, or you feel like you're inadequate or something like that, of course. And he took to drinking. I don't know how your mother reacted to it, but it's not important how they reacted to it. It's just the fact that they did, and you can maybe try to embody that energy just for a little while. Maybe it'll help you. Because the anger is not going to help. It'll get you clicks and stuff, but that'll just kill you early. And who's going to benefit from that? Come on. Come on, Monique. You know better. You know better. Know better. And if you don't know better, know better. All right? I'm here. There are all kinds of tarot readers. There are all kinds of, psychologists, psychiatrists, and online you can watch videos. You don't have to say nothing to nobody. Maybe that'll help you on your healing journey. But you got to forgive it. You got to. Same way you would, listen, what does it say? Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. How can we ask God to forgive us for our trespasses if we don't forgive those who trespass against us? Don't mean you got to be their friend. Don't mean you got to send them love and light. Just and he's paid for it and continues to pay for it. He feels guilty about it, your brother. You have more forgiveness for him than you do for your father. And your father didn't do it. But you're so angry. Just a suggestion, sis. High blood pressure, heart attacks, all of that. You look great working out. But there's depression can also lead to weight loss. I lost 80 pounds. and then pick up a barbell yet. Didn't run a mile yet. But because of depression. Because of people doing things, messed up things. On purpose. And you didn't know. And when you find out, you're like, what the hell? How could I have loved this person? People do fucked up things all the time, Monique, you know that. And when the person that you love does something fucked up, you get shell-shocked with that. Now imagine if that person that you love is your child, that you're legally obligated to still put a roof over his head. Now you got to be on high alert to watch him and her and any other girls that come in the house. Did he do it to this sister too? You know what I'm saying? It's just a lot for a parent to process. And sometimes we don't get it right. But he apologized to you already, Monique. So he's good. Your father don't get no karma. If that's what you're thinking. No. The fact that you didn't accept his apology is not his problem. That's your problem now. Your father's good. He didn't touch nobody. He just didn't do nothing about it. According to you. That you know of. Some people have ways of doing shit that nobody's supposed to know that they did it. People know people. You never know. And maybe your brother knows and he ain't telling you because, you know. You know how men keep secrets? The same way we keep secrets, right? But you owe DL an apology. And don't try to get him to expose that person with his daughter. That's just disgusting. Gone. You're fucking up the church money right now, girl. Anyway, let me get over here. Thank you guys so much. 142 minutes and 17 seconds. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, but not sorry. I'll try to timestamp it as to where I get to the Mother Mary Oracle and the background and my sermon to Monique. I hope she doesn't cuss me out because I really can't take it. I'm not in the mood. So, anyway, talk to your promoter. Forgive DL for that bullshit, dumb question back then. Forgive him and his daughter, whoever you feel has done you wrong in this situation, including daddy, promoter, manager, son, husband, Sydney. But you might want to take a look at those books a little closer, and that attorney, you might want to get somebody to look at the attorney too, because for all you know, they working in cahoots. I'm just saying. Where'd you get him from? Okay, package deal. He knows somebody that knew somebody. Come on, girl. Anyway. As for everybody else, I hope you got something out of that oracle. Like I said, it is the Mother Mary Protection, Miracles, and Grace by Holy Mother by Alana Fairchild. Right? She makes a lot of the decks that I use, Alana Fairchild. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And there are exercises in there. So you can pull a card for yourself monthly, daily, and do the exercises in there towards healing. On the channel, there's inner feminine healing for me that I did during this last 6 months or so. I was doing a series by your zodiac sign. Look for Sagittarius. Listen to the story, and you'll see who Sagittarius's fairy tale character is, and the things that you may need to take a look at for your Sagittarius fierce self. Right? And this is Sagittarius full moon too. Oh, you really acting up, Monique, right now. Okay. You triggered your father's birth. The anniversary of your father's death was yesterday, June 5th. And this Sagittarius moon. All of this is affecting you. You're being affected by the moon cycles also. That may be another thing you may need to look into. Your moon cycles and your reactions, how you act during moon cycles. Maybe you need to adjust some of your activities. Just saying from experience. Even if you're past menopause, figure it out. When was your last period? And your husband probably knows it better than you do. Believe me. My son's father knew when my period, how old I was, and what month I stopped my last period. He knew. Like, what? I didn't know that. He did. So I asked him, he might know. For whatever reason, they do. And he's not the only one that told me that they knew they knew when their wife had their last period. Like, I guess there was something they were looking forward to. Who knows? Anyway, hopefully somebody will get some help out of this, and hopefully this will be resolved. As far as I'm concerned, Will Smith's issue is resolved. Him and Chris Rock can take care of that, and the Academy might want to reconsider. Just saying. And but he already withdrew, so he's not gonna go back. He could go back, I guess, if they asked him to. They should. He was being a hero for a little girl. Just like Venus and Serena. Anyway. I'll be talking to you guys real soon. Thank you so much for stopping by. Peace. Peace, Monique. Peace. You want to talk to me? It is IyaPatsy, and you can send me an email at pbtarot7@gmail.com. And we can do a Skype visit, call, anything like that. I don't need to be all, live if you don't want to be. I don't care. But let's do the work. You might feel better, a lot better. Okay. Love you guys. Thank you for coming by. Talk to you soon. Peace.